So today we're going to talk, we're in section 2.5, our last section of the chapter. We're going to talk about formulas and literal equations. So a literal equation is just one with two or more variables. So it might have an x and a y, or an a and a b, or an O and a P, something like that. Sometimes they only have letters. So it might look something like A times B equals X, Y over Z. That would be a literal equation. It just has letters. And when we talk about a formula is just a literal equation that means something specific in the real world. So I'm going to say formula used for something in the real world. So something in science, for example. In geometry, we would say a formula would be something like area of a rectangle equals base times height. That is a formula for the area of a rectangle. That would be a literal equation for a line. Yeah, y equals mx plus b. That's point or slope-intercept form of a line. Our rules or our steps are the same as before. So we've talked about 5 steps. We use the same 5 steps for literal equations. We're not doing anything different when it comes to solving these. It's exactly the same. So our steps that we've been talking about, step 1, usually clear fractions. Step 2, usually distribute. Step 3, combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. Step 4, undo addition, subtraction. And step 5, undo multiplication. So those are our steps. We're going to do the same thing. So I just want to go through some examples of solving these literal equations. And for a couple of them, we will plug some numbers in and calculate some things. So really, it's nothing new. It's just sort of a different way that the equation might look. All right, so we're good with the idea so far? Okay. So let's solve for y. 3x plus y equals 10. So we want to get y by itself. So we want to get this 3x away from this side of the equation. We're going to think of that 3x as being stuck together. And we want to deal with it all at once. So is this 3x? Are we adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing here? To the y. We're adding to the y, right? So how do we undo addition? Subtract. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. The y comes down. These 3x's go away. And, sorry, this should be a 3x. And when I subtract 10 minus 3x, because there's no x with the 10, I just have to write 10 minus 3x. And that's my answer. Y equals 10 minus 3x. Now in your homework, you'll get problems that say, solve for y, and then plug in when x equals, let's say 2, plug in x equals 2. So that's just asking us to plug that in here. So we would get y equals 10 minus 3 times 2. Well, that's y equals 10 minus 6, which is 4. Y would equal 4 when x equals 2. So we plug in to this formula or this equation, and we can figure out what y equals when x equals 2. Y equals 4 when x equals 2. Do I have to do this part? If the problem asks you to. Some problems it will just, this will be all it asks you to do. Other problems will ask you, will plug in x equals something and figure out what it, and then do the calculation. Okay? Yes? Yes. Plug in once you solve it. Yes. All right, let's look at another one. This time we want to solve for n 3m minus 2n equals 6. So almost the same thing. There's just a little bit different thing going on here. So we want to get this n by itself. So how are we going to get this 3m away from this side of the equation? Yes? Well, is there a when we don't have anything written here, is this a plus or minus? If there's nothing written, we think of it as a plus. So we need to subtract. So subtract 3m from both sides. Question? Yeah? We're thinking of this 3m as just one thing altogether. So we could think of this as plus 3m minus 2n. So to undo that plus 3m, we're going to minus 3m. Just like we did here. So 3m minus 3m, those go away. I get negative 2n equals 6 minus 3m. Now what do I want to do? To get the negative 2 away from the n? Now I want to divide by negative 2, and I'm going to divide everything by negative 2, so I'm going to draw a big division. Those go away, and I get n equals 6 minus 3m divided by negative 2. And that's my answer. I don't need to do anything else with that. Well, then the problem might say find n when m equals 6. So this is telling me plug in m equals 6 here. So I get n equals 6 minus 3 times 6 divided by negative 2. So n equals 6 minus 3 times 6 is 18 divided by minus 2. Well, 6 minus 18 is negative 12 divided by negative 2. So n equals 6. So when m equals 6, n equals 6. All right, we good there? Okay, let's look at a formula. C equals 2 pi r. And we want to solve for r. Does anybody remember what this formula is for? Yeah? Well, so r is the radius. Yeah? Very, very close. It's the circumference of a circle. The area of a circle is pi r squared. So you're very, very close. Pi equals 3.14159, something or other. Goes on forever. All right, so we want to get r by itself here. So what is this 2 pi doing to the r? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? If we write them next to each other like that. It's multiplying, so we are going to undo multiplication with division. So we divide by 2 pi. The 2 pi divided by 2 pi, those go away. And I get r equals c divided by 2 pi. And we're done. So the radius of the circle is the circumference divided by 2 pi. All right, this one is for you all to try. P equals 2L plus 2W. Does anybody remember what this formula is for? Yes? Two lengths, so 2 lengths plus 2 widths. So yes, that's exactly right. The perimeter of a rectangle is 2 of these plus 2 of these. 2L plus 2W, yes.
You never told us what to solve for.
Not yet. Solve for W. So work on this one. Solve for W. This is a lot like the second example that we just did on the other page. So if you look back to your notes on the second example, that can help you out. So you can think of this as being plus 2L. So not bad, but wow. So I gave a hint a couple of times. You can think of this 2L here as being plus 2L. So that might help you get rid of that one. What's that? I think I have to do that in every class. I've got advanced pre-calc students who want to do that too. All right, are we doing okay? need to do the advanced Algebra 1 stuff for this class.
How could I do that?
So there's an explanation in the folder on Schoology. It explains how you can get advanced Algebra 1 credit. Okay?
Does that help you in the future?
It just, it doesn't help. It just, some people, it makes sense for some people. It makes more sense for some people, doesn't make as much sense for other people. All right, let's take a look at this. Are we all good on this one? So I want to get this W by itself. So how am I going to get this 2L away from the 2W? Yes? We're going to subtract this from both sides. These go away. The 2W comes down. My equals comes down. P minus 2L. I just write it like that. P minus 2L. Now how am I going to get this 2 away from the W? We're going to divide. Those go away, and I get W equals P minus 2L divided by 2. And we're done. That's as far as we can go with that one. So the width of a rectangle is the perimeter minus 2 times the length, all divided by 2. All right. Questions there? This 2?
Yeah.
I had 2W. So at the end, to get rid of that, to get the 2 away from the W, I need to divide both sides by 2. Yeah, I had 2W. So at the end, to get rid of to get that 2 away from the W, I had to divide everything by 2. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, another one for you to try. And I'm going to tell you first, be careful because there are x's on both sides here. And we want to solve for x. So give that one a try. Take care of those parentheses first.
You would just like do the
Uh-huh, exactly.
Where's the answer key for that thing again?
Yeah.
So on my desk,
Because I realized my idea wouldn't work.
if you're facing the desk, in the tray that's over on the very right on the bottom.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, so you're pretty sure it's now subtract the 40.
You could, this is fine. I would leave it written, I would just cancel out that.
And then I
leave it
equals
written like
x
this.
plus
X plus 4b, just all big fractions divided by 4. You did it correctly, yes.
Oh, okay. But on a test, am I allowed to write 4x equals x?
As long, if you had this and then this, you would get full credit. All right, first thing you want to do is distribute. Okay? Oh, so at the end, you're going to get all x's together? So,
Oh, why not? I didn't memorize. Oh my God, that's so big.
I would subtract x from both sides. So let me double check what you did. Yeah, here, like here, you want to get all your x's together on one. Or you divide by 4.
That's the one that don't have the 3 whole
Have an
time.
x here, and a 3 on x. Subtract this x on both sides together.
I'm talking for please.
But then, oh, what if you don't have it?
Like that. So 4x minus x is 3x.
Oh, no.
That's 3x.
So long. Wasteful.
All right, let's take a look at this one. What's our first step? Distribute. Nice. So, distribute there. I get 4x minus 4b equals x. Well, let's get that 4b away from here. So I'm going to add 4b. My equals comes down, that goes away. The 4x comes down, and I get x plus 4b. I want all the x's together. So how do I get all the x's together? I'm going to subtract x. The equals comes down, the 4b comes down, and these go away. 4x minus x is 3x. And now I can get that 3 away from the 4, or sorry, the 3 away from the x. And I get x equals 4b divided by 3. Yes?
I'm a little confused. Would it also be okay instead of subtracting 4b from, wait, what did I do actually? I subtracted 4x from each side.
First?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Negative 3x.
Uh-huh.
So is it okay that I got 4b minus, or divided by negative 3?
You'd have negative 4b divided by negative 3, right?
Yeah, I just did
Yes.
it for the fun.
Yes, that is the same answer. That would be correct. Yes, that works. That's a very good question. So the question that was asked is, could we, from here, 4x minus 4b equals x, subtract 4x from both sides? Well, then the negative 4b comes down. These go away, and I get x minus 4x is negative 3x. And then I divide by negative 3, and I get x equals negative 4b over negative 3. Well, what's a negative divided by a negative? A positive. So they're the same thing. Yes. All right, last example. And this is an example of a problem like what you would see on your test. Whoa.
Are you trying it or is it just an example?
No, I'll work through it. Density equals mass divided by volume. This is a formula for density. Density equals mass divided by volume. And we want to solve for V. Solve for V. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to think of D as D over 1 as a fraction.
Should we cross multiply?
That's exactly right. Said let's cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply here, those two, and I'm going to multiply those two, and they're going to be equal. So D times V equals 1 times M, which is just M. And now how do I get the V by itself? Wait, is the D
Oh, divide.
adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing?
Divide.
It's multiplying, so we need to divide.
So then,
These cancel, and I get V equals M over D. Got it. So the volume is the mass divided by the density. You'll see this in science. This shows up a lot in science. And you'll see this problem on our test. Questions? Okay, I'm going to write up the homework here in just a second. What we're going to do after the homework, or sorry, after this, is we're going to spend a little bit of time. Actually, we're not going to spend a little bit of time. We are going to have the rest of the period to work on our homework. So we get out at 10:50, so we have about 15 minutes to work on homework. You can get a good portion of this homework done.
Is that a worksheet?
It is not a worksheet. Page 112.
Oh, that's so lame.
All right, and hang on just a second. The first few problems, listen up folks, because the last class had some questions on this. The first few problems tell you to solve for y, and then they give you some numbers. Solve for y, and then plug in the numbers that they give you to figure out what y equals when x is something. So like the first examples we did. They give you x numbers to plug in after you solve for y.
So it's like like an A part and a B part to the problem.
Right. All right, there you go.
Can I get some algebra book?
Yeah, you can just grab one.